Hey friends, we are going to take it down a notch and unwind a little bit. So you need some props today, a blanket. If you don't have a yoga bolster, you can stack up some blankets or grab some pillows or depending on the size and shape of your couch, maybe even a couch cushion will do. Also, 2 massage balls. These are racket balls. You could also use tennis balls, pinky balls, yoga tune-up balls. Just please don't use hard balls like lacrosse balls or golf balls. That won't feel so good for today. And lastly, a block. So we're gonna get started with the blanket on our stomachs. So I'm starting out with my blanket about this size. And I'm gonna fold it in half once. So it's about this size. And then I'm gonna fold the bottom 2 corners here in just a bit so that the bottom of the blanket kind of makes a V shape. Well, I should do it like this, huh? This is a little, here we go. It's a V shape. And so that V shape is gonna sit right in the V shape of your pelvis. So you might have to hold the corners in just a bit as you come down to your stomach. So the blanket is going to be nestling into your lower belly, just above your pubic bone and just to the insides of your bony hip points. And as you lower yourself onto the blanket, it's going to become very clear if you need to take a bathroom break. And so if you do, just press pause, go take care of yourself, and come back and join me right here. So you're gonna stay up onto your forearms and let your legs relax. Let your bottom relax, your glutes relax. Now, as you are in this position, this kind of assisted back bend position, I'd like you to become aware of how your body moves as you breathe. So when you're inhaling, the body's expanding. You might feel your abdomen kind of push a little bit against the blanket. And then as you exhale, let your body drape over the blanket. So it's really subtle. It doesn't look like a big movement at all here. It's just a bit. With each exhale, releasing tension. Maybe that's tension in the body. Maybe that's tension in your face or in your jaw. Maybe that's tension in your feet or your legs, in your hips. Maybe it's mental tension, emotional tension. Maybe you're holding on to something that you can set it aside for the time of this video. If you need to, as we're unwinding today on the mat, you can always give a big sigh out of the mouth. And just use that to let it go. And some of the positions that we're going to use today, we're going to be in them for longer than we might in a normal class, or in a more active class, I should say. And so while you're in that position, in a quiet, aware, observant way, you can just notice signs that your nervous system is down training, is taking the edge off, So a spontaneous deep breath, that's gonna be a sign to you that your nervous system is settling down, that you're becoming more comfortable, that you are taking the edge off. Another thing that lets you know, especially as we start working into more of the self-massage, like with the balls and the block, if you notice your muscles kind of twitching a little bit, That can be a sign that your nervous system is accepting the work and settling down. If you notice a shift in your thoughts or your mental state, that's also another sign that your nervous system is agreeing with the work that we're doing. So stay aware of those things, the spontaneous deep breath, the twitching of the muscles, and watching for any shifts in your mental and emotional state. Let's take one more deep breath here and let it out really big through the mouth. Okay, so rock over to one side and get the blanket out of the way. And then come down to your belly, and you're going to make a pillow with your hands and rest your forehead there on the backs of your hands. And just take a moment here to breathe. And now let's frog the right leg out to the side. So your right knee is going to be in a line with your hip. There's 90 degrees in the knee joint here. And you can keep resting your forehead on the backs of your hands. One thing that I really love about laying on my stomach like this is that I can really feel the effects of my breath throughout my whole body. So we clearly always think about the breath as coming from the chest or, moving in the belly as well. But because the belly and the chest are making contact with the ground, as we're inhaling and exhaling, that motion, that breath motion is kind of rippling throughout the body. So you might even feel, depending on how deeply you're breathing, that, your arms get a little bit lighter when you inhale and heavier when you exhale. Maybe you can even feel that in your legs, that your legs get a little lighter when you inhale and heavier when you exhale. And let's go ahead and bring the right leg back in straight to meet the left. Take a full breath in and out. And then frog the left leg out to the side. So again, you have your knee in a line with your hip and your ankle in a line with your knee. So there's 90 degrees in the knee. Soften through your shoulders. Relax your bottom, relax your feet. Can you become aware of the breath movement? This time maybe noticing the spine. When you're inhaling, noticing that the spine moves away from the ground up towards the ceiling. And when you're exhaling, the spine releases towards the ground. Last breath here. And then extend your left leg back to meet your right leg. Enjoy a full breath in and out. And then prop back up onto your forearms. So if you want to feel less of a back bend sensation, you can have your elbows further away from your torso. If you like that feeling of compression in the lower spine, then, keep your elbows right underneath your shoulders. And so see what this feels like now that we've opened up the belly with a blanket. See if you can draw a deeper breath here. And then we're just going to start to dip the shoulders. So the left shoulder dips forward and you can kind of turn around to the right. A tiny little twist here. Going back and forth from side to side. Maybe feeling your shoulder blades sliding around on your back as you go. And coming back to center, we're going to go ahead and push up onto our knees. So curl your toes under. Use your knees to help you get up as you exhale. Coming into, it's like all fours, but your elbows are on the ground still. And so here, you really do want to make sure that your forearms are parallel. Don't let your elbows go out wider than your shoulders or your wrists. This is going to help us to concentrate the unwinding here into the shoulders. And so you're just going to shift your weight forward and back. And now as you shift your shoulders back behind your elbows and your pelvis comes back further, just notice how far you can go there. If the shoulders are really tight, or you maybe don't have a lot of practice in this range of motion, your elbows might try to squeak out from side to side, and we don't want them to do that today. So try to keep your elbows firmly planted where they are. And just kind of exploring what range of motion you have here. Warming up the shoulders. And now, let's change it up a little bit. Turn your palms to face the ceiling and see if you can maybe glue your fingernails to the mat. And keep your palms open as you take your shoulders and your pelvis back. Whew, it's different. It's different this way. And again, just exploring. Don't let your elbows squeak out. Don't let your fingernails lift up off the ground. Last one. Okay, now put your palms back down on the ground and you can sit your hips back towards your heels, kind of coming into a child's pose here. Now, if this doesn't tend to work for your knees or your hips, you can always put a block or your bolster underneath your bottom to give you a little bit more support there. And you might need to kick your feet a little bit apart to make that happen. So just get comfortable in your lower body. This shape isn't quite as important for this position because we're going to be looking at the upper body. We want to be focusing more on the upper body, so just get your lower body into a comfortable position. So again, you're going to plant your elbows on the ground and they're about shoulder width apart. And so from here, you can bring your palms together and try bringing your hands behind your head. Now, for me, I have to keep my palms apart and just touch my fingertips. You might be able to get your palms together, whatever you can do. And then you're going to isometrically drag your elbows towards your knees. And as you do that, kind of arch up through your back, rounding your spine. Maybe feeling some tugging on the underside of the arm. And release. Let your arms extend. Come upright. So we're going to be in a little bit of a kneeling position. If you need to sit on a block or a blanket to make your knees more comfortable, please feel free to do that. Touch your fingertips to your shoulders And draw some big circles with your elbows. This always feels like an interior massage for my joints. Maybe you can feel your shoulder blades sliding around on your back. And go in reverse. Make as big of circles as you can. Maybe also noticing that your circles are shaped differently, that your left elbow draws a different shaped circle than your right elbow. Maybe close your eyes to think about that, or imagine that. Tune in with the shape. And again, you can switch directions a few more times. Okay. Lift up your bottom off your heels. Your knees are underneath your hips. Take your right hand and cradle the back of your head. And as you do that, try pointing your elbows straight up towards the ceiling. Take a breath in and almost like you're picking up your head and making your neck get really long. Take a breath in, and then as you exhale, lean it over to the left. And really let your neck and head relax into the support of your hand. And breathe. And come back upright, and let's switch. So you're going to use your left hand to hold your head up, trying to get your left elbow vertical. It might be out here. It might be, somewhere else, but we're trying to point it right up towards the ceiling as best as we can. And then leaning over to the right. And let your neck relax. Enjoy your breath. And come back upright. Release your arm, grab your yoga block, and we're gonna get ready for some leg work here. So my block is a cork block, and so the edges can be a little bit harder or more precise feeling, I should say. If you have a block with sharp edges like this, or it feels like the edges are too sharp or precise, just drape your blanket over the block when we get into the position to kind of soften and dull those edges a little bit. So we're going to come into a lunge position, and there's a fleshy pocket right above your kneecap. If you want to go ahead and find that, that is the spot where the block is going to rest. Okay, so it's not going to rest on your bony kneecap, and it's not going to rest higher up on your thigh. It's just right above in that kind of skin you can kind of, grab and hold on right there. So I'm going to have my right leg back. I'm going to bring my left leg forward, coming into a lunge, and I'm going to lower that right thigh just above the knee down onto the block. So again, if you get into here and you're like, oh, that really does feel a little too sharp or pointy, put your blanket over your block to dull the edge there. And if it's too difficult to reach the ground here, if you have 2 more yoga blocks, you can put your hands on those. You could also bring a chair over and rest your hands on a chair. You can be on fists, you can be on palms, whatever. Just get comfy. And you're gonna let your back leg get really heavy. Let that right leg get really heavy. And as you're letting your back leg get heavy, can you let your pelvis feel like it's full of lead also? Can you let your pelvis release towards the ground? If you notice that your right thigh muscles are kind of pushing back or fighting back, they're tensing up against the pressure of the block, maybe that's a sign that you should put a blanket over the block to soften it a little bit. See if you can let the muscles on your right front thigh know that this is a safe position. They can relax. If anything's having trouble relaxing, don't be too hard on yourself about it. Your muscles are tensing as a way of trying to protect you. You can say thank you. Thank you. We're safe now. You can let go. And if they let go, that's great. If they don't let go, that's fine too. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So take a breath in to prepare, and as you exhale, engage your back leg to lift it back up off the block. Reach back and get the block out of the way. Put your right knee down and bring your left leg back. So just get off your hands for a moment. I'm sitting on my heels with my toes curled. You don't have to have your toes curled right now. If you need to shake out your hands or your wrists, do that. So now we're going to put the block over on the left side of the mat, and same thing on this side. I should say too that I forgot to say this on the first side. I have my block on the medium setting. I've found that this is a good setting for most people, but depending on the length of your bones and the range of motion in your joints, you might need your block up at the high setting. So feel around and figure out what feels better for you. Thankfully, this is a very sophisticated piece of technology with 3 settings built in: low, medium, and high. So I've got mine on the high setting. I'm putting it here on the left side of my mat. Right foot steps forward, coming into our lunge. And I'm going to ease my left leg down onto the block. I have both of my hands to the inside of my front leg. You might feel comfortable with one hand on either side. Really just get as comfortable as you can in this position. And then we start the work of settling. So as you relax into the shape, you can let your back leg feel very heavy, like your bones are made of lead. Notice what the muscles on the front of that left thigh are doing. Are they fighting back? Are they trying to push away from the pressure of the block? If they are, that might mean that the pressure of the block is too much right now, and maybe you should put your blanket over the block to kind of soften the pressure a little bit. Can you imagine your pelvis sinking down towards the ground? And when we get into these postures where we are holding the shape for several breaths, you have the opportunity to notice if the sensation that you experience changes based on your inhale or your exhale. Take one more inhale here, and then as you exhale, engage the back leg and lift up. And you can get the block out of the way and get off your hands, come back to a kneeling position, shake out your hands. Let's give our hands a little bit of love before we move on. So imagine that your thumb is a joystick. So I've got my left hand on my right thumb and I'm just moving my thumb around like I'm playing Atari or something. And I'm going to go in both directions. And I'm going to go over to the other hand and do the same thing in both directions. And now I'm going to take my hands, so feel free to sit in whatever way is comfortable. If kneeling isn't comfortable, then switch to cross-legged or even transfer to a chair for this part. That's fine. So we're going to take the backs of the hands together. So I'm going to try to adhere my fingernails towards one another. It's a little tricky with the thumbs, but try to get your thumbs as much contact in between your thumbs as possible. So I just noticed that as I was doing this, my left shoulder was trying to help for some reason. Notice if there's any part of you that's trying to help that's maybe not necessary. So I'm going to invite my shoulders to soften. Maybe you can invite your shoulders to soften too. So you've got the backs of your hands tight together, and hopefully the backs of your wrists are tight together as well. See if you can keep that and just drag your hands down towards the ground any amount. This is as far as we're going. As you do that, if you go too far, you might not be able to keep the backs of your wrists together. They might separate, or your thumbs might come apart, or your fingers might come apart, you know, whatever. So just try to keep the backs of everything, the backs of the hands, the backs of the fingers together. And still trying to get those thumbs closer together. Okay. And relax. Bring your hands up. Put your palms together and make some figure eights. It's kind of like swimming. Just keep swimming. Let's take it into another side stretch here. So come back up onto your knees. If you want some padding under your knees, put your blanket down. So here, take your left leg out to the left and put the sole of the foot on the ground. So I have my knee in a line with my arch. And I'm gonna sweep my left arm up and reach for the ground with my right arm. Enjoy your breath here. And then see what it's like to take your left arm back behind you any amount more, opening the shoulders up towards the ceiling any amount. So that's a very small movement maybe for you. It's a very small movement for me too. And just pay attention to how that changes your stretch sensation or whatever sensation you might be feeling here. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, let's come up and switch it over to the other side. Left leg comes in, knee under hip, right leg comes out, knee in a line with arch. Take your right arm up, take a breath in, and exhale, reaching for the ground with the left hand. Enjoy your breath. Feel free to relax your neck here and let your head kind of wilt down towards the ground. And again, just explore, moving the right arm back, opening the chest towards the ceiling any amount. It's a small movement for me. It might be a small movement for you. It might be a big movement. Just notice. It's all good. And let's take one more inhale and exhale to come up. Woo! Bring your right leg in, and now we're going to come to sit. And you're going to bring your feet in towards one another, soles of the feet together, knees apart. And if this is not a super comfortable position for you, maybe you kind of feel like stuck in like a rounded spine, like you can't sit up, get a block. Put your block under your bottom, or your blanket under your bottom, or even your bolster under your bottom, and that should help. So here, see if you can open your feet a little bit, like a book. See what's going on in there. And so there's a spot right to the inside of the ball of your foot. It's kind of just below and to the inside of the ball of your foot. It should feel kind of squishy, okay? We're gonna use our thumbs to apply some pressure to that area. And we're not trying to do anything like super deep tissue, big deal massage here. We're just giving a little squeeze, a little love to our feet, and we're gonna sync it up with our breath. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, you're gonna lean forward, and that lean forward, any amount. You might be bending your elbows, you might be keeping your arms straight, but that lean forward is going to initiate a little pressure onto your feet from your thumbs. So I'm pushing with my thumbs a little, but I'm also squeezing with the fingers on the front of my foot as well. So I'm kind of giving my whole foot a squeeze. And so you inhale to release it, and exhale to give it a little squeeze. And then you can kind of find another spot on your foot that would feel good to give a press with your thumb and a squeeze with the other fingers on the front of the foot. Just giving your feet a little love. Okay. Let's release that. You can close your book. Okay, we're gonna do some therapy ball work right now. So we're gonna lie down on our backs, and the balls, I'm gonna show you before I lie down where they go. So in between the shoulder blade and the spine, one on either side of the back. And depending on how your nervous system is feeling about that area of your body today, if it feels like too intense to be laying on these balls right there in that position, then you can do this against the wall, okay? You can stand up and pin the balls between the wall and your body, and you can kind of lean back into the wall until you get your desired amount of pressure. Otherwise, let's go ahead and come down to the back, move your microphone, and once you get there, this is kind of the hardest part, is having the shoulder range of motion to get the therapy balls in just the right spot. But we have been working on our shoulders so far and unwinding a little bit there. Okay. Oh, so once you get the therapy balls in place, just kind of give yourself over to the pull of gravity and see how it feels to have the pressure of the therapy balls on your upper back. And keep watching that sensation as we start to move the arms. So pick your fingers up towards the ceiling, and you're gonna reach your arms up towards the ceiling. So my elbows are straight. I've just kind of picked my shoulder joint up away from the ground, And then I'm gonna relax my shoulder joints down towards the ground. So when you're reaching up, your shoulder blades are moving apart. And when you're relaxing, your shoulder blades just kind of slink back into the starting position. So let's do it with the breath. So as you inhale, reach for the stars. And as you exhale, let your arm bones thunk down. And can you feel the muscles in your upper back, in between your shoulder blades and your spine? Can you feel those kind of moving under the pressure of the ball as you're moving your arms? My knees are bent and my feet are on the ground, but if you want to straighten your legs, you may. If you feel like you want more pressure here, you can always push into your feet so that your hips get a little lighter. That'll transfer more of the weight up into your upper body. So we're going to keep moving here, but in a slightly different way. So when you exhale and you let your upper arm bones kind of thunk down towards the ground, open your hands apart any amount. And then bring the arms back towards one another. Touch the hands together. Reach up for the ceiling. Exhale, thunk, and the arms move apart. The hands move apart. Inhale, hands together and reach up. Exhale, thunk, and open wide. The thunk is the technical term. Last one this way. Okay, relax your arms. If you feel good with the balls in their current location, cool, stay put. If you want to move them up or down slightly, or if you feel like you need to readjust, take that time right now to do that. Okay, now we've done the arms out and in, we've done them up and down. We're gonna do them now. Well, this is up and down too, but it's a different up and down. So start with your arms by your sides. And as you inhale, take your arms overhead and back behind you. And then exhale, bring the arms back down by your sides. Inhale to lift the arms and exhale to lower the arms. And again, if you feel like you want more pressure here, then you can push into your feet and lift your hips a little bit. If you're at the wall while doing this, if you're standing at the wall, if you want more pressure at the wall, you can walk your feet away from the wall a little bit more so that you're leaning. If you want less pressure at the wall, keep your feet closer to the wall. Last one. And give yourself a hug now. Wrap your arms around you and you can rock your shoulders from side to side. Open your arms wide. Give yourself a hug in the opposite direction, opposite arm on top. Open your arms and let's reach back. Take those therapy balls out. Hold on to them because we're going to use them again here in just a second. Just take a full breath in and out. Hopefully that feels really good. Okay, now one more thing up here at the neck and head. You're going to take the therapy balls, and I'll sit up to show you, but you don't have to sit up. We're going to put these right at the base of the skull. Okay, so you find that occipital ridge right at the base of the skull, and you're gonna nestle the therapy balls right there under it. Okay, so I like to lightly hold the therapy balls in place right here because otherwise they move. And so as you're holding the therapy balls there, you're just gonna shake your head yes. It might be a little yes motion. It might be really big and pronounced. If you don't like holding the therapy balls in place, it can be helpful to put them in a sock and tie the sock tightly so that they stay together and don't really move. Okay, and now, no. So you have a choice here with no. If you're shaking your head no, you can choose to let your head kind of rub over the balls, or you can keep them pinned and let them hook into the tissue so that you're really not sliding over the therapy balls. Maybe try one, try both, try just hanging out. You do you. One more breath. Okay, take those therapy balls out. We've got one more therapy ball move, the quickie hip release. I'm gonna sit up so that I can show you where we're gonna put these. So coming down to the hips, we're gonna have one ball in either side of the buttocks. Okay, so you have your sacrum in the middle, sacrum bone, and then your hip bone where your thigh comes into your pelvis. Okay, so you're gonna choose the fleshy part. You don't want these to be on the bone. Okay, so as you get into position, you'll kind of be able to adjust them as needed. So have your knees bent, lift your hips up a bit, and then take the therapy balls under your hips, one on each side of the buttocks. And then you're just gonna slowly let your hips, your pelvis sink onto the balls, slowly giving the weight over. Okay, that already feels good to me. Hopefully it feels good to you. Again, if it feels like it's too much of a sharp sensation or too precise of a sensation, then you can put your blanket over the balls to soften it. Bring the soles of your feet together and your knees apart. So once you do that, if you kind of felt like the therapy ball moved into a less optimal spot, feel free to adjust. Now also, if you become aware that your feet are tingling, you might be resting the ball on your sciatic nerve, and you should probably move it just to a little bit of a different spot. It's surprising how just the smallest movement can really shift the experience here. So now rest your hands on your low belly. Close your eyes if you want to. And let your inner thighs soften, relax. Relax your bottom. Notice if there's tension in any other places, like in your jaw or in your face or your shoulders. And instead of, beating yourself up or, why won't you relax? Whatever that internal dialogue might sound like for you, can you shift it? Thank you for trying to keep me safe. And I am safe, and it's okay to let go now. And if you feel the parts relax, great. If they're not ready to relax yet, that's great too. Talk kindly to yourself. One more breath here. So to come out of this, bring your hands down to your thighs and guide your knees towards one another. Now, if you need to reposition the balls for a moment, you can. Let's take the legs into the opposite direction. So keep your knees and thighs as close together as you can and take your feet as far apart as you can. And notice how this is different. In the last position with the knees apart, these external rotator muscles that are resting on your therapy ball, they were kind of in a shorter position. And now here with the knees together and the feet apart, those external rotators are in a longer position. And then bring your feet in a bit and your knees apart. So go slowly, push into your feet, lighten up on your hips, take the therapy balls out. You can put those off to the side. We're done with them now. And see how your pelvis feels. Okay, we're gonna shift to use a few different props now. So let's go ahead and roll over and sit up. Okay, so I'm gonna use my bolster for this. And if you don't have the bolster, remember you can stack up your blankets or get that couch cushion. Okay, so I'm going to also probably need my blanket. Depending on what your upper body looks like, you will probably need something else under your head, maybe your blanket, maybe a block. So just have those tools close by so that once you lie down, you don't have to get up again. You're gonna come to lie down so that just the tops of the shoulders are on the bolster. And there, yeah, see, if I just lay here without anything under my head, it would probably be fine. Some people might find that it feels like the front of your neck has to be really open and your head is kind of hanging back a lot. So if that's you, you definitely want to just make your head really comfortable. And you're gonna extend your legs and turn your palms to face up. And while you're here, take a moment to let the rib cage settle into the space in between your rib cage and the ground. Okay, palms facing the ceiling. And we're gonna make some snow angels or some floor angels. Your legs are just gonna stay put and you're just gonna move the arms. So take the arms up as high as they can go. And so remember, we did soften the rib cage. So if you're using your rib cage and spine to get your arms overhead, I'd like for you to try not to do that. So keep your ribs and your spine in their resting place. And really, that way we're gonna be able to juice up the shoulders and concentrate this movement at the shoulders. So taking the arms out and up as far as they can go comfortably without disturbing the rib cage and the spine. And then maybe holding there at the top of that movement, wherever that is for you. Feeling that horizontal stretch across the chest and acknowledging that the tissue from the palm of one hand all the way across the inside of the forearm, the bicep, the chest, to the other bicep, to the other forearm, to the other palm, acknowledging that that is one long line of muscle that's all connected. And then bring the arms back down towards the sides. And this time take your arms up and overhead. And as you take your arms up and overhead, again, let your arms come up as high as they want to without disturbing the rib cage or the spine. So we're not doing a back bend, okay? We're letting the spine and the rib cage stay mellow and just taking the arms up. And you can kind of let your arms hang for a moment at the top of that range of motion and then bring them back down. And one last time, bring the arms up, kind of let your arms hang there, and release your arms down. Okay, bend your knees and roll over and sit up. Okay, so to finish up, gonna get a little twisty. So you might find that you want your bolster to support your legs. You might find that the block works fine, and you might find that you don't really need much support at all. I'm gonna put mine over here, my bolster over here to my right, because that's the way we're gonna go first. And I'm gonna put my blanket up here for underneath my head so that I know that my spine and my rib cage can be mellow. When you come down to the ground, if you lay down on the ground with your legs extended, does your rib cage and your spine come up off the ground? And if so, you really do want to have that support under your head. So keep your right leg straight, bend your left knee, and you're going to pick your hips up and scoot them to the left. Move your microphone. And then you're gonna pick your left leg up off the ground, and you're gonna pick up from this left thigh bone, lift your left hip up off the ground and rotate over into a twisted position. And so here's where you can slide the bolster up underneath your leg. Now, notice how there's this toggling that happens. The closer your leg gets to the bolster or the ground, you might notice the farther away your left shoulder and the left side of your rib cage comes off the ground. So you just have to decide which one you want to focus on today. It's easier probably to rest your leg on something and let your arm and shoulder kind of hang, because your leg is probably heavier than your arm or your shoulder. You could also try, if you want to keep your left arm and shoulder and rib cage on the ground, you can try bulking up the height here underneath the left leg. So you can kind of toggle back and forth and see what feels good for you. And rest then once you find a nice position. And I like to put my right hand and hook it on my left thigh to kind of help me stay secure in this position. And notice what your twisted breath is like. How does your body breathe when your torso and your trunk are rotated? if your left shoulder and the left side of your rib cage are lifted off the ground. Each time you exhale, can you connect to the feeling of those parts of you getting heavier towards the ground, even as the left leg stays heavy and grounded in its position? And that's the action that's really going to get you the rotation in your spine, as opposed to a little bit of spinal rotation and a little bit of a back bend. Take one more breath in and out here in your twist. And let yourself unwind, coming back to center. Be sure to scooch your hips back to center before you extend your left leg again. And just pause here in the middle. Before you go to the other side, take a deep breath in and out. So if you're using the bolster or whatever prop or accoutrement you have, go ahead and move it over to the other side. Bend your right knee, and you're going to lift your hips and take your hips to the right just a little bit. You're kind of giving yourself space in your twist. And then pick your right foot up off the ground, and it's almost like your whole right hip is lifting up towards the ceiling as you come into your twist. So again, you're going to do that dance between what is my priority here? What do I need to make sure is grounded so that I can rest for a few breaths in this shape? Maybe that's getting your leg grounded. Maybe that's getting your rib cage and your shoulder grounded. Or maybe it's somewhere in between. Again, if you can't make it all the way over to the bolster or the ground, just bring the ground to your right leg by stacking things up or changing the orientation of your prop. You can also, if you want your shoulder, your rib cage to feel more grounded, you can slide a blanket or a pillow under there as well. And then in that way, you can maybe bring some more rest to that part of your body. So if you want extra grounding on that right leg, take your left hand and hook it on. And as you breathe, you're feeling the expansion of the rib cage and the torso on your inhale. And then as you exhale, can you invite the right side of the rib cage to fall towards the ground any amount more? Notice if any other parts of you are holding on or gripping, and invite them to join you in relaxing. Enjoy one more breath here. And then untwist, unwind, come back to the middle. Get your pelvis back in the middle and extend your legs. Take a full breath in and out. So if you'd like to keep resting, feel free to set a timer on your phone or on whatever, and give yourself a nice rest in this kind of neutral position here. You might put something under your knees to make it more comfortable. Otherwise, if you're about to get up, if you're feeling like you need to move on with the rest of your day, take just a moment, put your hands kind of near your heart, and give yourself a little love from your hands. Can you feel feelings of care, kindness, and compassion streaming from your fingertips and into your heart? Care for yourself in the way that you would care for a loved one or a friend. Just give that feeling back to yourself. So you can stay there, or you can join me in gently rolling over to one side and sitting back up. I hope that helped take the edge off of it for you and that you feel unwound. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so proud of you for taking this hour for yourself on the mat. I'll see you next time.